Heya! Welcome to part 2 of my Brigitte guide, coming from a Grandmaster Brig one-trick pony myself. Part 2 will cover how to be more proactive and aggressive with Brig, as well as going over a bit more of the technical side of things, and how to properly optimize certain aspects of her kit for an offensive advantage. I'd also like to thank everyone for the feedback and support for the first part of the guide, since it was more of an experiment to see if this type of content is something people would be interested in. So again, thank you a lot for the feedback and support. Since there's a decent amount of interest in this guide, part 2 will actually have much more care put into it, as well as taking into account the feedback that y'all provided with me. So with that out of the way, let's get right on to part 2 of the guide, using Brigitte offensively.
There's more where that came from!
And here's where the fun part of Brigitte really shines. Brigitte can actually be quite strong offensively, and while Brigitte doesn't really have many combos, she does have some good strings here and there. A popular one that does a huge burst of 155 damage is Flail, into Shield Bash, into Whip Shot. However, Brigitte really shines offensively when she incorporates cover and utilizes it constantly. Always use cover and get creative with cover, no matter what kind of cover it may be. Whether it be a lamppost, or a random brick wall, or even your own tank, using cover will allow you to take on space aggressively.
Cover is such a powerful thing for Brig, and combining it with smart shield usage really turns Brig from a squishy 200 HP hero into a sort of pseudo-tank, especially if you're being pocketed by your other support. Simply put, you hold up your shield when your health is low, you get healed, you attack for a bit and create space, and then you retreat to cover or hold up your shield again. You really have a tough time dying if you cycle all of those things properly. I'd also want to note that while I strongly recommend against shield bashing aggressively into tanks, especially if they are full HP, sometimes it's actually superior to shield bash aggressively into squishies to not only close the gap, but to also try to burst them down for a quick whip shot or flail into whip shot combo after. Also, one little thing to note is that once you do shield bash into someone, hold backwards just for half a second for that perfect spacing so that you no longer are in melee range against characters like Tracer or Genji in particular. This means that your mace is still well capable of swinging after them, but they cannot melee. That right there is called spacing.
Shield's under fire!
Using your shield intelligently will really set you apart from other Brigs who just let their shield break without any proper plan. Remember, it's okay if your shield breaks as long as you're still able to do your job and stay alive. Your shield is tiny enough to where if it breaks, you won't be waiting an eternity like Reinhardt's shield. On top of that, if your positioning is good, your shield will break and you should be able to immediately revert back to cover without any problem anyway. Furthermore, smart shield usage can let you aggressively take on 1v1s with other DPS, and believe it or not, some tanks as well. For example, you can actually 1v1 Sigma quite well because you can just hold up your shield for his rock, as well as his orbs. With Sigma, for example, hit him in the downtime of him shooting his orbs, hold up your shield for his orbs, hit him afterwards, and so on. I bring up Sigma as an example because he's probably the most simple example of using your shield intelligently during combat, as more or less everything he does can be countered directly by you if you use basic shield management. Other examples include attacking during the downtime of Hanzo's arrows or Lucio's projectiles, and then quickly holding up shield when they themselves attack.
This shield isn't just for defense!
Your shield is a very valuable tool during and even before any combat even started to begin with. Every single time I start a match, I hold shield and just mass ping the entire team. This shows clearly and safely the enemy comp I'm going up against, which allows me to change my strategy accordingly. Get into the habit of doing this, as this information this early on really does squeeze out as much of an advantage as possible for you and your team. On top of that, shield can also be used during crucial moments where you need to peek in dangerous scenarios to figure out a plan. Here in this clip, I hear the Cassidy High Noon, but I'm not sure where he is at. I hold shield and peek, but I don't see him, so I assume he's further back on the stairs. This means I'm safe right here and I don't need to worry about it. This means that whenever you are passing through an opening, hold up your shield. Remember, always, always, always
Hold up your shield when you're not doing damage. Get into the habit of shielding all the time unless you are absolutely 100% sure that you are safe or you will be attacking something.
Rally to me!
In terms of using Brigitte's ultimate offensively, I find this is typically where most of her value comes from. A lot of support's ultimates can be used incredibly offensively and to initiate a fight, and Briggs is no exception. So by all means, take the initiative with her ultimate. But keep in mind, you always want to have some sort of plan as well. So remember, her defensive utility lies within her stun, but using her stun offensively can provide an incredible amount of burst damage. Remember that old flail into shield bash into whipshot combo we talked about earlier? Well, now with Rally and the stun you gain from it, you can add an extra flail to optimize the damage output even further. So now the combo is flail into shield bash stun into flail into whipshot.
Rally to me!
Like I said a while ago, it's perfectly okay to use her Rally selfishly, and I do so a lot. For example, if you see a lonely enemy and you want to isolate them, and you want to guarantee the 1v1 fight, quickly use your ultimate and now you've turned a 5v5 into a 5v4 after you just completely demolish them with your Rally. Even though people think that supports are meant to have a defensive or reactive ultimate, Brigitte's entire kit is very unorthodox. I seriously almost never use her Rally defensive entirely. Rally's value in my opinion lies almost entirely in its counter-offensive pressure and burst damage, both attributed to the stun. Matter of fact, this clip is the only time I ever used Rally defensively, since here my Ramattra was low enough to where I knew that if he just got a little bit more healing, he'd be okay, but because he was antied, I rallied here so the overhealth would provide just enough healing for him to survive. I'd also want to note that to really optimize Rally's value, I always hold my shield every single time I start my Rally. This is because in your startup of Rally, you're actually animation locked into the animation and you cannot attack at all, and the only thing you can do is shield. So just to be extra safe, you might as well shield so you don't get headshot or something like that.
You should rally to me! Alla till mig!
This is relatively short, but I want to note that this is just my playstyle with Rally. When I rally, I usually take very aggressive looking angles or just straight up walk into the enemy's face with my shield up if they are out of position. This baits the enemy to focus entirely on my shield or break my shield, and then I pop Rally in their face. That, or I lure someone and set up a trap and make them think I'm easy pickings only for them to be met with a Rally. Here, I have a clip of this exact kind of bait and Rally trap from someone else's stream, so shout out to them, where I set up this exact kind of trap to lure them in. Hook, line, and Rally.
You can get rid of that enemy, Oh, I'm not. Never mind. Let's back out. Let's just back out. They use Brawl.
Here's another clip where I use Rally more aggressively. Here, I'm teaming up with my Tracer against this Echo, and she's forced to duplicate when she's low. Here, it might seem like I'm rallying for no reason, until... Keep a track of enemies that can be potentially burst down with Rally. Rally's offensive power lies in its huge burst of damage potential.
Let me help you with that!
With Brigitte as support, she can not only support defensively as I previously have stated, but she can also provide an excellent supportive presence in a way that other heroes like Anna or Mercy cannot. For example, due to Briggs' repair packs providing a healing over time effect, if you have for example a Genji who is aggressively taking space or is going for a blade, you can throw a pack or two for Genji, so that while Genji is using his ultimate, he is getting 50 health per second for 2 seconds on top of the 15 health per second if Inspire is up. While Genji is deep in the enemy's backline and even perhaps out of line of sight from our other supports such as Ana or Baptiste, he's still kept nice and refreshed due to Brig's powerful ability to keep crucial teammates healthy in dangerous scenarios by packing aggression. Packing aggression is where Brig truly shines, as Inspire combined with Prax provide healing over time, which can really add up over time. On top of that, because Brig is such an enabler support, you can oftentimes aggress with your fellow DPS. A Tracer on her own might be fragile, but a Tracer being packed with Inspire up while you're also aggressing with her is extremely powerful. When you're not defending someone, you must be aggressing with your DPS to enable them to be aggressive. This sometimes just simply means just teaming up with them so that they're not entirely alone.
Helping you recover.
Optimizing your repair packs are incredibly powerful, and it's a tremendous way of enabling your DPS to make aggressive plays. Due to this, it's actually better usually to pack your DPS primarily, since you heal 50 health per second no matter what. Whether it's your tank or DPS, you'll always heal the same amount. But since DPS have smaller health pools, your healing compared to their health is an overall higher percentage for the DPS compared to the tank. This allows for your other support, let's say Ana, to focus on primarily healing just as tank when they need be. This means that you and your other support aren't necessarily competing for ult charge, as she can freely heal the tank when she needs be, and you can freely heal the DPS when you need be. Keep in mind, like I said earlier, don't throw out repair packs like candy, only heal when absolutely necessary. Before you really throw out a repair pack, ask yourself these types of questions. Does my teammate really need this repair pack? Are they in any danger? Are they about to be in any danger? Can they heal themselves easily? Would I be better off packing an aggressive play? For example, if you have a teammate who is low and an Ana that is low HP, but your Ana is in a relatively safe spot, do not pack the Ana. She has automatic healing just like you. So pack your teammate so that they can get as much healing to enable them to continue making aggressive plays. Pack people who are in danger or could be, not just people who are low HP or even missing a sliver HP. For example, if you have a Hanzo who is missing just 20 HP, he could use some healing, sure, but it's not optimal to throw out a pack just to heal him for 20 HP when your other support can heal him instead. With all of those things out of the way with Brig, especially during the heat of combat, you must be proficient with cycling through attacking and packing. This clip here is a good example of how you always need to be aware of packing a teammate far away even when you're fighting someone else super close up. Due to this repair pack in the face of pressure from the Sombra, it allows the Ana to survive to nano boost me, which in turn saves me as well. You must try not to get overwhelmed and continue to not only heal but also to fight and mitigate pressure at the exact same time.
Allt kommer bli bra.
Also, this is just personal preference for me, but I turn my repair pack sensitivity to 80% so that I can be a little bit more precise when I'm trying to pack someone who's in a group of teammates. I find this to be the perfect sweet spot between leniency and precision, but again, this is just my personal preference, so try changing the sensitivity for yourself and see what works for you. If you find yourself accidentally packing the wrong person, try moving that slider down just a bit. If you find yourself needing to be too precise onto your target, try sliding the slider up. A large part of Brig's value is shutting down very specific key matchups if you hard focus them to allow your team to have essentially no pressure from a very key threat. If you're able to completely shut down an entire character's value, you quite literally take them out of the fight and dare I say the entire game even. This allows your friendly support or DPS to be fully enabled due to the fact that they no longer have to worry about say a Tracer in the backlines or a Brawl or Winston diving the team. I find that hard disabling characters provides more value than trying to do anything else most of the time. Make it your goal to shut down certain characters such as Brawl, Sombra, Winston, or Tracer. If they cannot do anything, they are essentially useless. Again, with those characters, your utmost goal is to completely 100% deny them anything. This playstyle is essentially what I like to call enabling by disabling. Notice here how in this clip, I'm attempting to play normal Brig, but the second I realize there's a Tracer, I hard commit to completely nullifying any sort of value she can possibly get. First I dash to cover, and then I make sure she only focuses entirely on me.
I even aggressively shield bash into her to force out cooldowns and just deny any sort of advantage she tries to gain. While I do still pack my team, my main goal whenever I see a Tracer, for example, is to completely disable her in any and every way I possibly can. If you're extra astute, you'll also pair similarities to how back in part 1, I saved whip shots to shut down the enemy Winston's dives. That is technically enabling by disabling as well, but here, against certain characters such as Tracer in particular, this playstyle is usually more aggressive than reactive,